The scruffy-haired little boy kicks a stone. He can't be more than 5 years old. He watches his brother kick the stone with his tongue lolling out of his mouth. This one doesn't say anything, kicking the concrete with his worn-out sneaker.
Lily's our mum.
The stone kicker laughs suddenly. His head is too large for his shoulders. The other one laughs as well. Wow, so intellectually stimulating.
What bad people?
I don't think questioning 4-year-olds without their parents present is gonna crack the case.
Then we're definitely doing it. The stone-kicking one becomes frantic all of a sudden, as if that's something to be scared of. The obvious fact that you just stated.
He looks just like me.
The boy doesn't answer. His brother throws another rock. Both of their hair is covered in some kind of dirt. The rock kicker was just being shy, but now he's enthusiastic again.
You're bad with kids. Don't worry, everyone is. How about we do some police work now? We're not getting anything here.
You stop mid-step and put your hand on a garish necktie.
That bottle, Bratan! Just look at that bottle!
In this drunk's hand, on the pipe there, glowing blue, a mysterious, otherworldly blue, filled to the brim with holy mysteries.
Oh, I think this is about so much more than cool. Please go talk to him. See what it's about. I'm drawn to it.
Good to see you, friend. Do I have deals set up for you, buddy boy?
Does he actually know you, or is he just shopkeep friendly?
So what do you want? I got smokes. They're cheap. Very cheap. I got Pilsner. Great deal. You won't get a better deal on that piss. Spirits I can let go for 300 real. I also have speed. And by speed, I mean amphetamine.
See? There it is, Bratushka! The spirit! Let's buy the spirit! 300 real is a lot, but this has to be done! It's our end game! Exactly! This is no ordinary drink! It's what our relationship has been building towards all these years! This is the climax, the mystery, the virginal sigh! That drink is special! You have to buy it from him! Get it off him! Kill him if you have to! Our ultimate fate depends on it! And the fate of many worlds!
The lieutenant looks at you, looking at the bottle of spirits, then at Rosemary, suspiciously.
Sure, friend. You know it.
Don't mind old Rosemary here. He's a buffoon. Let's have a word after your high-concept transactions. I'll give you the lowdown.
Hi. By amphetamine, I mean speed. Good, my man. Now what can I offer you? Oh, the system's been good to old Rosemary here, and I'm milking her like a bitch goat in the backyard. You see, friend, man makes his own luck, and I made mine real good. Got my hands on 3 bottles of liquor exquise. sold 2 to the fellows around here, and immediately invested the profit. Bought cigarettes, bought beer, even bought a bit of speed. And look at me now. I've got everyone on my hook.
The hook? Where is it? I can't see it.
Of course, of course, of course. It is what it is, you know. What it's always been. People, buddy boy. It's the people. See, friend, it's real valuable. Worth every real, if you catch my drift. Got it from a bit of a business venture. You know, it's funny, actually.
He's finding it difficult to focus his watery gaze.
What?
Keep him talking.
This guy.
Conversation might bring a discount, no?
Oh, this is medicinal spirits. The good stuff. Got it from the doctor's office.
He ain't shitting you! Medicinal spirits are a blast, Bratan! The flaming truth of this joke of a world!
I got one of those scientific ampoules a few months ago. Torpedo, they call it. It's supposed to keep a man from taking a drink. Didn't stop me for shit, that's for sure. 5 lemons with half a pack of butter and you're good to go. It really isn't. In a week, the goddamn kidneys started giving me all kinds of hell. Finally, the missus took me to a private doctor's office. Not a charity, the real thing. Those arseholes charged me 4 real to remove the damn thing. But I came out on top after all. The idiots left me alone in there. Now, I used to teach high school biology. I know what doctors use to preserve dead things. It's like 3 cans of this blue medicinal stuff from the back room. Threw the snakes out and voila! What's left is this beautiful blue stuff. 98.7% almost pure alcohol. 2 I already sold to these fine gentlemen here. But this last one is yours for 3 real, if you want it.
Don't say it.
$3 real and it's yours, friend. The deal of a lifetime.
Well done. You got it. That's a much more reasonable price right there. Makes sense now.
Just make sure to enjoy that one, friend.
Bratan, I am so proud! Now, whatever you do, don't drink it! This deserves so much more than just regular oral consumption!
The tie is so on the money there. Up the bum it goes.
Just wait for my sign. Keep it with you. Keep it warm. Keep it safe. Soon we will enter the other world.
Soon. The time will come soon. Have patience, brave one. I'm getting a really dark vibe from this. This won't be pretty.
My kind of guy. Here you go, friend. In the civilized world, it's a custom to tip the shopkeep, friend. But come back anyway.
Hello, mister.
She clutches a small stuffed animal. Occasionally, she twirls it around.
Yes, I am. Little Lily. You know my mom? That's nice. My mom is great. She's never angry or anything. Yes. They don't want to play with me. They're older and play outside. They look the same. Sometimes I can't tell them apart. They look identical. Luby. Raluby. My mom tells me I'm a big girl, but she doesn't know that I can't say Earl. Or sometimes I can, but then Uller.
Kids.
It's a grouse.
You might be able to get on Gart's good side if you make up for the skewet you broke.
I don't know. Sure, just go and get it. I don't like it anyway. It looks angry.
All right, you just need to grab it from the ceiling and go.
It's Lammy. He's my friend. Sort of.
Lambie is a stuffed lamb that, admittedly, has seen better days. One of the eye buttons is missing, and the fur is tattered in several parts.
Yes. Very soft. Isn't he soft? Bye!
Hear that? Magnesium. That's what you're lacking. The lack of magnesium has you slouched. Yes, and it's critical. Look at yourself. You're practically devolving into a fish due to the lack of magnesium in your bloodstream. You need to get so magged up. You've probably had 2 heart attacks and a minor stroke already, and the only prescription is insane amounts of magnesium. 1 stroke? Don't be so modest. He's having one right now. Yes, if you want to live, you need to evolve. You need to ascend the carbon barrier. Go to the apothecary and buy insane amounts of magnesium. It will reverse the damage to your circulatory system.
More lessons in basic reality. These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late. For the big time.
The smile of a predator. No doubt what she's got in mind.
All men are predators, dear. Nothing much to be done about that. It's all a matter of where you get to file your teeth. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head.
She's not gloating. It's a relieved celebration.
Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed. Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
Yeah, it was a kerfuffle, all right.
Yes, the Insulindian deluge, they call it. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. I prefer the term risk-averse. King Guillaume was nobody's fool. He could smell a PR disaster brewing, so he got out alive, and his nephew Fricelle got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective, or the remaining gentry, the beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-la-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government. This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
A devout man of the center. Hard to come by. It's good to have someone who takes a moderate approach to head shooting. In your line of work, I mean. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Indeed, Zarat is a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark. From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar. Maybe it's because she has a boat and you have that necktie? A pair of pants?
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the coalition of nations, and you, of course, the citizens' militia.
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune. Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-eastlery communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. 08 to 19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere. Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt is Barbara Muscova, this raincoat is impervious to rain and is guaranteed for 100 years. My daughters will wear it. We could have had so much more. Every one of us. If only we played it right. Good question. What would you have done differently?
No, her first.
And you would have died, most likely. Not far from here. Maybe even right here, during the beachhead, defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city. No, almost certainly. The Commune would have forced you. Such was the fate of the undecided. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer. She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine. It's sharp.
Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. I can see you thought I'd gone extinct. No sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a centrist at heart. A real moralist. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her. But only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
I do hope so. I hope we're able to remain collegial despite it. Remember, we were partners, whether you like to admit it or not. There's blood on many hands, I assure you. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes. An oil fire on the ocean.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself. And the crown on your head as you lay in the casket.
Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, ma'am.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother and a wife. Now, shall we return to reality?
What is all of this? The scent, the sound, the air.
What world? The only one, I suppose. The world of matter. And its pale antipode.
The camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
Great bodies of water. Forest-covered surfaces. Clusters of light where the cities lie. You've seen the montage. We all have. This world is enough. There is a term of endearment they coined for it, in the DeLorean century, when humanity was high on this world, discovering more and more of it, these archipelagos included. Elysium. There are those who would call it hell. A term of hatred that originates, like many such things, with the Mesk petro-fascists. Oh, you want a picture of the world? There is no complete set yet, dear. They're having some trouble reaching orbit. Great things are difficult to achieve. For now, we're viewing the world from the inside, sideways. We used to think it was a sphere, but that is beginning to look less and less likely by the day. You wouldn't know it from the tabloids, but the ORG nations have been launching weather balloons into the lower ionosphere since the 30s.
ORG, Occident Revichol-Grad.
There's a steadily increasing trickle of images. Between the big three scientific contributors, they're piecing together a dark grey corona. Yes. Pale covers 72% of the surface. There are grey flares and prominences, even arcs above entire isolas. The images are blurry, but if there was a sphere in there, it certainly looks like it fractured a long time ago.
A cold fear seeps into you.
They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of land disrupted by nothingness. I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the acute encephalopathy. Even scientific positivism isn't entirely convinced about what we're dealing with here. But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our rut, bring us together, however naive it may sound. You have misimagined it. I don't have the power to convey to you the effect and geometry of the images that depict our world from below low orbit. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very disco. You'd love it. But you already have. And you're doing just fine, despite the rubble.
Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there, on whatever this all is. Your arms hang down by your sides. The lieutenant observes you both, silently. He adjusts his glasses.
The pale is not, technically speaking, part of reality.
Yes, Also, I think we've had enough excitement for today. We do have a case to attend to.
His voice is low, but firm. All she can say is,
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's try something else.
Ma'am, remember you are dealing with a very sensitive and impressionable police officer who is still recovering from a recent medical episode.
The Lieutenant's right. Let's change topics. What do you want to know? Anything.
you could sneak back later when the lieutenant is not here, unless you can convince him to step aside. Good idea. Just ask him. He won't make a scene.
Fine.
See? What can he do? You're a grown man.
Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant. Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass. Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The Pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness.
The negation of being.
That's right. The negation of being. No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
Yes. That is enough. Many cities are built much closer. An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the Pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. A great vision. The area of transition between the world and the Pale is called porch collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist, cold vapor marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism, a mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see.
You hear your pulse rise. The air feels caustic and cold suddenly.
It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into Pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension. Right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working. No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible.
There's a slippery article in there.
Pale when it's particular, this territory of Pale. The Pale when it's pale in its entirety. Once you've seen it, language balks at the difference. Oh, it is so difficult for us.
A squall of birds. Hardware operating in the harbor. Firm. Self-evident.
It is possible to force dimensions on the Pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the Pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged. Extensively. Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that Pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter. They call it the blend over of the self. The Pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past.
Who says and who argues?
The logical positivists say, the dialectical materialists argue. It feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travelers to 6 days of pale exposure per year.
It's more for her. Way more.
No, Lieutenant Dubois. I'm entreprenetic business class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of pale transit annually.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories. Someone else you've met may have been exposed as well. The strange grey-haired woman in her lorry.
Yes, carried in the hulls of airships. It's a horrific job. Automation will abolish it soon.
You should ask the pal driver about this. See what she says. That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't imagine.
Up to my gills, officer.
An acidic smile on her lips. It's getting worse every year.
Entreprenetics is the scientific study of the pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of grad. The study of the pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain.
They had not traveled the entire circumference of the Pericarnassian Super E Solar. It was not merely in the west, it was everywhere, even then, surrounding them.
There are signs of pre-modern crossings. Successful navigation of the pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years. Nothing. We remain powerless before the pale. The only real advance in pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later. Hybrid airships, Detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near pale to far pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end. If we throw them precisely, then they don't.
Gone, like a skipping stone beneath the surface.
The pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping. What do you think, Detective? Precisely. One of the few measurable effects of the pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists. Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge. I suggest you do the same.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
One and all. They say pale is death, but for the universe.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do, tell me, Detective, is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Then tell me, what do you think of the pale?
Your ailing constitution, sweaty forehead, the beads there, and your heavy breathing.
You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then... I hope so. I truly do. If I may suggest, hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile...
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
You have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
Good. You have not passed out from it. Perhaps I worried for nothing. are we still on the reality lowdown, or should we do actual police work now? Yes, well, the rest of us have dealt with it for thousands of years, so...
You will have to deal with it, too, the lieutenant thinks. This is why I didn't want you to know.
Good luck, detectives.
Searchlight Division. You've sharpened your senses by being on the lookout for missing persons. Now you notice more of what's happening around you. Perhaps, when you're done with this case, you can join the Searchlight Division of the RCM and find every Revacholian that's ever gone missing without a trace. There is undoubtedly a backlog of such cases, because you never know. A missing person could be just around the edge, barely out of sight. The sight of bullet holes stirs something in you, making you forget the lieutenant's surname.
Where? There? Those are old. Yes, the one that happened half a century ago. Those bullets were fired during the revolution and do not warrant an investigation by officers of civil law. Not much. I don't have a fresh perspective on it. Shall we go?
The lights are so pretty when it gets dark.
The girl keeps her hands folded, hidden. Why is that?
What do you mean, sir?
She knows where this is going. She looks around anxiously. Her hands remain folded in front of her. She doesn't want to show them. The lieutenant stands by, looking at the two of you with little interest. A facade of true professionalism. He is far more intrigued by the situation than his poise reveals. She brings out her reddened hands, her nails frayed, nearly chewed down to the flesh.
And you knew this from me keeping my hands folded? Well, that proves nothing. Anyone could do an easy deduction like that.
She actually is impressed. This is more like a defensive reflex. She nods, half provocative, half enthusiastic.
Maybe so, sir. Okay, I know it's a bad habit, and I shouldn't. It was okay, sir.
There's more that can be achieved here. Ask her to do the same.
You're quite sober.
The lieutenant does not flinch at the comment. He does not flinch even a single bit. He is intensely not flinching. It takes effort.
I sure hope you are, sir.
There she stands, swaying on her feet, assaulted by the early spring breeze. She smiles at you. The whole situation suddenly feels familiar, somehow. There's something you're missing. Magnesium-based life form. We tell them, hell no. You're about to become a magnesium-based life form. The age of the primitive carbon man is done. No longer must mankind rely on slow-working background radiation to take us further into our genetic destiny. This is the era of guided evolution, and magnesium is the key. You are the first of your species, the next step in human evolution. An advanced magnesium proto-man who mags it up, drinks it down, and sniffs it sideways.
Hi, Ace Detective. Are you here for more?
Because you know each other. She's been talking to you so openly because you've talked before.
Yes, I stand in this spot all the time. You've been running around all week without your shirt on, sir, telling people about being a star or something. I don't really understand who those stars are. Of course, you've stopped by a few times. You certainly look better than the last time I saw you. Yeah, I can see. You don't have party eyes anymore.
Party eyes. Yes, of course. That makes sense.
I'm not surprised children have seen you running around with party eyes on, he thinks. Not at all.
You know, like a cat in the dark, all big and wide-eyed. It certainly looks odd on a man.
The swiveling eyes of a loony drug addict. That is what she meant. You were probably gurning too. Fuck yeah. You should get some party eyes right now. Snap those sequins on you, boy. Oh baby, that's not what you have to worry about. Worry about the important thing.
I didn't know I had to do that. I'm glad I could help you, sir.
Paintbrush? Check. Heavy fuel oil? Check. Now the only thing left to do is paint the wall. The paintbrush in your hand is like a loaded revolver. What will it be, Desperado? Quite a few things come to mind. You've spoken. The wall will now silently repeat the message for a decade or so, until the sea air degrades the paint, adding another layer of detritus to the city.
Very poetic. Real poetry. Should we return to our murder investigation? I hear there's a really bad one we are supposed to solve.
The dented yellow mailbox greets you with its graffito and bullet holes in the front.
Yes, for sending mail.
You drop the white envelope in the darkness. It lands with a soft thud on what sounds like a couple of letters. About a week's worth of mail as collected in there. They'll empty this very soon. Probably did the right thing. You can't trust that slug Everard. You know he's going to play you somehow.
All right, let's go back to Everard. If we don't mention anything to him, he won't know before it's too late.
Mr. Dubois, every worker? That's right, Mr. Dubois. I see the socialist democratic fervour now burns in your heart too. How can I help you today? The Golden Boy returns once more. Wonderful. Simply wonderful, Harry. Of course. I already knew this. My friend, the mailman, confirms the letter is on its way. You've done a great thing today. You've given the children of Martinez a real future, Harry, and I feel I can finally trust you now. You're in my inner circle. You too, Mr. Kitsuragi. We can talk about anything. The strike, the murder, your lost gun. Nothing is off the table.
Oh, Bratan, you play the old man like a three-string banjo. He has no idea.
Better not to gloat, sire. 'Tis arrogance that gives the play away. Be subtle.
Harry, I've got to be honest with you. Your gun was found 2 days ago. Withholding this information weighed heavily on me, but it had to be done. An old woman has it, and let me tell you, Harry, word on the street is she's a character, so watch out.
Is this the same woman who bought the gun from Roy?
Yes, the same one. I see you've done your research. The pawn shop made the gun easy to track. Crazy stuff, Harry. Selling your gun like that? Wild. Anyway,
Union Boy's gonna help you fix it. He winks at you. Don't worry, Harry.
the neighbors of this old woman contacted my men because they trust me and the DESCRIZIONE union. Apparently, she was waving it around at the entrance to her building.
Waving the gun around doesn't sound good. None of this does.
As I said, she's a character. I didn't have time for details. It sounds like she's unstable, but don't worry, no one got hurt. Unfortunately, I don't know anymore. You're gonna have to go in blind, Harry. But she's an old lady. How dangerous can she possibly be? Oh, and she calls herself the Pigs.
Calls herself the Pigs? That sounds bad.
I, for one, find it refreshing. Finally, someone calls themselves a pig.
It actually sounds extremely bad, but let's not give him the satisfaction.
I already have. Tonight, starting 10 o'clock, near the old fish market on the coast, the one on the boardwalk, a little past the fishing village. Be careful, Harry. I would never set you up for anything dangerous, but you did ask for this. Now, back to the fun stuff.
She will be there from 2200 hours till 0200 hours.
More fun stuff. Seems like we already have fun stuff to do.
Great, Harry, great. I think we have truly built a bridge between Martinez and Jamrock today. We have united the RCM and the DESCRIZIONE union. This has been so great. I'm sorry we don't have more fun things to do together, but if you ever feel like bouncing something off me, my door is always open. Most certainly, Harry. Nothing brightens my day like brainstorming these things with you. By all means, Harry, what's on your mind? I don't know what that means, Harry, but I love it. I love your initiative. Knowing you're out there keeping things running lets me focus on the big picture stuff. Don't even tell me what was going on. Alcoholic brew, stronger, stopped it, strike. I'm just going to let you surprise me, Harry. Ah, yes, your side investigation. Thank you. You've got some spirit clearing up phony drug accusations alongside this murder. I'll talk to the mayor and see if I can get you the key to the city, Harry. Now let's talk real business.
Actually, Rivershell doesn't have a mayor. He refuses to discuss it further. It's probably just a small nuisance to him. Not even a speck of anger in his voice. That's that then.
I'm always happy to educate and enter. Very nice, Harry.